Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. This episode is part of my funding schemes format introducing the available EU funding schemes. Nobody doubts anymore that Europe needs to ramp up its security capacities. The European Defence Fund is the EU Commission's answer to that, and some time ago I recorded an introduction to the funding scheme together with EU funding expert on security, defence and space, Margherita Volpe from Zabala Innovation Europe. The 2025 calls for the European Defence Fund, or EDF, has just opened, so you won't find a better timing for the next 2 weeks the Grand episodes, where Margherita is back in the virtual podcast studio to share with us how to write a proposal for this crucial funding scheme. In the first half of this double episode, we first have a talk about the preparations before the writing phase, and we also dig into how to work together with the consortium on the concept development. Excellent content for uncertain times. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Now, as regulars will know, this podcast, it is many things. It is guidelines, it's tips and tricks, it's debates, it's reflections, it's many things. Yeah? But I have, as regulars will know, I do have the ambition to do instructional podcast episodes on the different funding schemes that we have within the European funding area. And that's quite a task. Like I must probably at some point of time I will say, okay, now I'm not going to include more. But there are a good handful that I will continue to build up here in my library, so to say, in my little shop of funding schemes, where you can be instructed on introduction to the funding schemes, but also be instructed on how to develop proposals and how to implement projects within the specific funding schemes. And that is, of course, a road, a house that is slowly built, because it's only slowly you put brick on brick to do that kind of work, because it relates, of course, to guests and capacities I can drag into the studio and so on. Now, I've already been talking way too long and too much here. It's just explaining the baseline and how this in which context this episode is. So this is an instructive episode on how to write proposals for the European Defence Fund. And Margherita, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me again back here. It's a pleasure to speak with you again.
And it's a natural continuation, because you were my capacity when I did my episodes on the introduction to European Defence Fund. So they are lying there under my European Defence Fund tab. If you go into my website, my platform, under funding schemes, you'll find it there. A nice double episode with you and me on how to, or the introduction to the funding scheme. Yeah? So if you have an interest in what we're talking about here, you can go in to find that afterwards. Nah, Margherita.
Hopefully, several people have already listened to this, because the program has several peculiarities that needs to be taken into account also in the writing part.
I don't remember the exact figure of listening statistics there, but it's definitely above 50, probably also around 100. It's a niche. And this podcast always tries to reach out to more people, so more people should have interest in this. Anyways, Margherita, a few words about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Margherita Volpe. I work in Zabala Innovation, which is a consultancy company that is specialized in research and innovation funding programs, and in supporting companies and research center in getting access to these kind of funds. Among the different things that I work in. I have a specialization in security, defense, and space, and this is the reason why I'm here today to speak about the European Defense Fund, which is a program that was launched officially in 2021, so it's relatively young, and we have been building expertise and experience on it based on our direct involvement in the writing. So I will share my experience on it, very operative.
It's very important to understand that this is not a regular funding scheme.
Indeed.
This is a quite special funding scheme. It has some very specific peculiarities that you would need to go back to the introduction to carve out. But we will get to them also in this episode, naturally, because it relates also how you develop the proposal. Now, I can tell you, listeners, and not only is it a peculiar funding scheme to approach, it's also very difficult to get guests into the studio and share their experience. Now, my ambition with this episode was that I wanted to have a panel, because that's what I've done before with Erasmus Plus, to have a discussion, a critical mass. How do you do? How do you do? That's interesting. It was not possible. It was not possible. My context that works with this, that's specifically in the Danish system, they didn't want to share it because they are good people and kind people. Nothing about that. It was not about being, no, we don't want. They just kindly said, no, we do not want to share how we do this because it's very difficult to win proposals under this funding scheme, and the methods and tools that we have developed, we don't feel we would like to share them because it's something that we have developed over years, and it's not. So good luck, and we were looking forward to listen to the episode when you get that far. So that's that. So that's in itself very special here. It's very secretive, or it's guarded by walls like this. People, they are very careful what they say. And as I told you in our pre-meeting, Margherita, you can share whatever you want, and you can keep whatever you want, whatever your tricks you have under your sleeves are, because that's your business. And so it's like this. So some of this will naturally be guidelines, and then there will be some maybe like general terms where.
On the other side, I would like to pass the message that this is not something that is available only for the usual suspect, the big companies. There is a lot inside the European Defence Fund that is especially targeting SMEs, new applicants, in order to bring new expertise and more innovation into this sector that was traditionally very closed. So it's not impossible to apply. It's good to rely on an expert, on the support of an expert, and this is the bit of self-advertisement, but it's not impossible, and it is really worth to try also, because one of the points of the European Commission that was stressed inside the work programs and is continually stressed in the info days is that they wanted to transfer knowledge that was built in the civil sector towards the defense sector in order to mobilize more innovation. So it's really something that I hope will become more interesting for more people, also more organizations not usually working in the defense sector.
This is something I care a lot about this. It's really something I care a lot about, that we need to we have to stop being naive on this continent. We need to build up this. It's like this. The good time, they're over. They're gone. Forget it. So any resources we can put into building up, because we are far behind the Americans, Israelis, whatever, Asians. We need to do this, and we need to do it as fast as we can. Yeah.
And I think the instrument, the European Defence Fund, was created well for this purpose. First of all, because just to have a bit of recap of what we said last time, it is a collaborative funding scheme. So it requires the collaboration of two organizations in some cases, but in most of the cases, minimum three from three different countries. So it means that in order to access this amount of monies that are relevant and significant, you need to collaborate with other organizations from other countries. And also because it requires from the administrative perspective to submit a document that is called ownership and control declaration, in which the applicants declare that they are not owned or controlled by organization from other countries than the member states and Norway. This guarantees that the kind of knowledge and the kind of results that are built through this instrument really remains for the benefit of Europe, in order to have a competitive, to catch up on the competitive advantages that are for sure at the moment mostly held by other countries, and we really need to move in this sector.
And that's, I would say, that almost concludes our general remarks about. No, it doesn't. Now we put a fly in on general remarks about preparing EDF proposals, but maybe we should just let this be our general remarks, that we just had the importance of the funding scheme, right, and just move straight on, because it's probably going to be a long episode, this one. So let's just get at it. Preparation. So what I put here I follow this quite schematic in these episodes. So it's always sort of the same. It's always the same blocks that we run through. So let's just start out with this. So what's your preferred way to prepare the writing phase before you actually start to write?
Okay, so I have to say that in most of my cases and the cases that I have been working on, I receive an initial concept note from my clients that are already gathering together a couple of partners, the core group. So we start from there, and it is my job to analyze in detail the topic and try to make their concept note as aligned as possible to the topic description. But in the few cases in which I have somehow initiated a proposal from scratch, I would say that again, reading the topic is a core aspect. It is a general thing that is relevant in all projects, but in this case it is particularly relevant because the structure of the topic description is not very open, is more restrictive respect to what is typically seen in an Horizon Europe topic description. Here we have a scope description again with the activities details, but we also have a list of type of activities that determine the type of funding that you can receive, so the funding rate that you will have at the end. And here you have the specification on whether or not the topic is looking for studies, design, system prototyping, and so on. And more than that, it goes into the detail of what type of studies are requested. And last but not least, it gives already a list of functional requirements. So you are not dealing with an open call for proposal. You are dealing with something that is in the middle between a tender with a very detailed specification and a call for proposal. So the knowledge of the topic is fundamental. You have to really understand and grasp all the details that are available there. And from there, and from the innovation that you might have attended, you can construct a concept note. But you have always to go back to the topic and make sure that what you are proposing and what you are listing in your concept note is really aligned with the topic. I'm speaking about a concept note, but we can call it abstract, is a 10 pages typically document that set the framework of the proposal that you want to realize. And this concept notes needs to include the details on the background and why this project is needed, not only to apply and to receive fundings, but you have to really put in written formats the needs that underpin this idea for a project. And it needs to detail what are the specific objectives and the results that you want to materialize during this project. And this should be coherent, of course, with the topic description. And then as minimum other requirements, I would suggest to include the list of work packages and the list of target participants. These 2 points, these last 2, are particularly critical for European Defence Fund because the work packages can only be associated with one specific type of activity. And in the case of the development action, the type of activity will determine the specific funding rate of that work package. So you have to choose very wisely and very carefully the structure of work packages that you put into your proposal. And this needs to be defined from the beginning. It cannot be defined afterwards. So in the concept note. And then also the type of partners that you will put together and the consortium that you will put together in order to apply is extremely relevant, because again, especially for the development action, so the proposal with the higher TRL, I would say, there the funding rate can be influenced by a system of bonus that is based on the type of organization involved. In particular, you will receive a bonus if you have SMEs, transnational SMEs, which means SMEs that are not in the that are not a counterpart as a large organization in the same country, and also midcaps. So their participation and their active presence with a relevant budget is essential in order to improve the funding rate of the entire proposal, especially for the development action. Here I'm making mostly reference to the big projects, the topic that I call thematic, because inside the European Defence Fund there are thematic topics, meaning research action or development action in which there is a clear description of the expectation of the European Commission, and then there are three other groups of calls that are more open, are not for disruptive technologies or for the incentivizing, in particular, the collaboration between SMEs and research organizations. But the story is more or less the same. You have to give more attention to the consortium composition. You have to define the work packages and objective in line with the topic description, but in this case, for the open topics, there is a little bit more flexibility. So there, it will be more similar to an Horizon Europe case. But in the majority of the cases that are the thematic topics, there you really have to do all this job of cross-checking your concept note first with the requirements of the topic, and construct your consortium in order to maximize your chances for the bonus and for maximizing the funding rate. So the initial part is really critical.
What hits me is, when I was writing Horizon Europe proposals, my concept notes, they were 3 pages.
Okay.
Approximately. Yeah. Sometimes even shorter. It would be one page with the description of the idea, and then second page would be partners already on board, or partners we're looking for, stuff like this. Budgets. Now, 10 pages. That's a lot. Yeah, that's and if you have to be thorough, it's almost as you have already started preparing the proposal.
Yes, but defining the framework of what you want to do is extremely important. And of course, all this material that you put in these 10 pages will be reused for the benefit of the proposal itself. And consider that I understand that your concept note was 3 pages because also the topic description is shorter. In this case, we have a longer topic description, so we have more things to take.
How long are they?
In the order of 4, 5, 6 pages, depending on how many requirements there are. And in some cases, they are very detailed. Imagine that these documents are produced by Ministry of Defense, that collaboratively define these topics in the previous year before the publication. So they are a contractor who knows quite well what they want, and they are used to give very strong specification at the national level, and they are not giving up this privilege just because it is the European level. So the specifications are quite detailed, and we need to be precise as well. And also the application form with respect to Horizon, in this case, is 100 pages. And in Horizon is currently between 45 and 50 pages. So clearly, also the length of the abstract is longer.
You said normally for you have clients that have they already prepared something for you, or do you develop this concept note? Do they come with a couple of pages of description and
A
then
couple
you
of
help
pages.
them? Yeah.
A couple of pages or an extended presentation, typically, something like that. And
Okay.
then our job is to help them structuring this material and deep dive more on a specific aspects. And I was mentioning before that in most cases, the coordinator, so the client arrives with a couple of partners. So it's good to work with them. And once you have enlarged the consortium, open up this concept note also to these additional partners that you are engaging, so that they can bring in their piece and bits of contribution to the concept note before going to the actual writing. Because everything needs to be on the table, and is also useful to start to build the trust among these organizations.
Yeah. First of all, I have two things. First of all, your role, or the role of any facilitator or proposal developer, be it public, private, whatever, it's extremely important. Yeah.
Yes, I can humbly
Yeah.
say yes.
Yeah, because how often do you say this is not strong enough, we cannot do this?
Very frequently, and also I have frequently to remind, to be the commission and say,
Yeah.
guys, this is not related to the scope of the topic. This is outside. This is beyond what the commission is expecting. This is not coherent with the scope that is described by the European Commission, and this is extremely important in order to present a proposal that has a winning opportunity. Frequently, I have had the cases of partners or coordinators that have their own agenda of developments, and they want to bring in inside the proposal also these kind of things, but they are not aligned with the expectation of the Commission. So it's my role also to clean out these kind of things in order to guarantee that the proposal is really centered on what the Commission is expecting.
Yes, because it when the call description is so specific, to win, it's got to be on target with everything.
You have to be on target with everything, and you have to have attend something that can be attractive and innovative. So you have to have something already on your table, like a technology that needs to be developed inside the project in order to achieve exactly that goal. Or you have to have already a methodology that you want to apply in order to reach that those goals that are indicated by the European Commission in the topic. So this was why I was also mentioning before that is a little bit like a tender. You have to show off expertise, experience, and some good ideas, but very related to what the Commission and the program and the topic is expecting.
Now I forgot the second thing I want to ask.
The consortium, maybe it was another thing that I was insisting on. So you have an initial group of people that are already in contact for this project, and you need to point out my role, sorry. Our role as a consultant is to describe and list the optimal and ideal partners that can complete this consortium, and then start to knock at the door of these people, contact them, reach them through info days, and also work a little bit as mediator among all these different interests, because the companies that work in defense typically respond to a Ministry of Defense, which has its own agenda in order to obtain something out of these proposals. So there is quite a lot of negotiation between also national interests that are at stake in the same moment, especially in the development action, that are the ones that are more advanced and more ready to deliver a final product. So it's an interesting job of diplomacy, negotiation, intercultural exchange.
Yeah, well, the partner search is probably be quite different from regular Horizon Europe.
Yes, but by now, as we are at the we have in November, we had the fourth deadline of this program. So by now there is quite some knowledge about actors that have been involved in past calls. So there is a list of bibliography of previous participants that we can refer to. Then the info day of the European Commission that are celebrated here in Brussels, where I'm based, are attended by a lot of people. And then, of course, the people the organization that work in the defense sector knows a lot of other organization that have been working in this sector. It's a niche in which almost everybody knows everybody else.
Yeah. And it's a niche if you enter into it as a consultant as you need, I guess it's the entry bar is high, but when you are in, so to say, when you have done the hard work of networking and building up the relationships, then it gets shorter and shorter to build the consortia, no?
Yes, because you have more contacts and you can leverage on previous experience and previous project in order to identify the right partner that you need. On the other side, I would like to highlight that the work program that is an annual work program, so you only see the course of 1 year. It's very complex and heterogeneous. So the fact of having worked 1 year in one proposal for space-related defense application does not guarantee you to have access to the full spectrum of defense-related operators.
Yeah.
So, but for sure, yes, it helps a bit. There is internal references, referrals, yeah.
Many would say that, it's also like this within the quantum area. It's also like this, but I think the difference here is the secrecy, and that's why I say there's a high bar to get in. People, they keep the cards very close to their torso.
Yes.
So it's very. My best guess is it's not just to pick up your phone and then you call a development department in Boeing or whatever.
No, it's not
one
like
of
that.
these big companies, and then you're getting, can I talk to your chief chief technology officer, and then you have a good chat about what they're doing and if they would like to join.
No, but making reference to the example that I was giving before about space, for example, which was one successful case that we had. There is a lot of space that is done for the civil sector, so you can try to leverage your previous contacts from the civil sector in order to animate or mobilize a proposal also for the defense sector, because it's basically the transfer of knowledge developing in the civil sector that the Commission is expecting. So you can start by that, and then there are also the open calls that are exactly more open. There are more proposals to be funded, so more competition, but it's also easier to get the partners involved. The budgets are smaller respected to other thematic projects, so it's easier to enter maybe from those channels, or in my experience also from the transfer of knowledge from the civil sector. And there are a research center that works in both sectors. So again, my suggestion is to try to leverage on these dual capacities of certain organizations.
Yeah, and I think probably companies like Zabala or some of the other, of course, big, but also smaller, mid-sized grants consulting companies, you have a big eye on the dual user. So you have clients that works within technologies that you've been helping for decades, that you can maybe transfer into also be involved in something like this. So it's
exactly, if it fits with one of the topic, it's done. It's done. There is still the competition to face, but it could be a good try, a good first try.
Yeah, because for instance, let's just say food technology, bio within the
Mhm.
food area, then you will have dual use of food for the military.
I would
and you have
refer
big,
mostly to medicine, but there
yeah,
is a lot. This is another good area. There are hospitals that have that are developed or that have capabilities for both the civil and defense application, and there is a part of the work program that is dedicated to the medical aspects or contrasting CBR and contamination, for example. So this is another aspect for dual use. And likewise, there was a lot in these years going on about energy. So the batteries that you are
yeah,
developing for the civil sector, you have to adapt them for surviving in a war zone or in other fields applications. So basically, is a work of adaptation. So there is room to start and enter, even if you are not an organization that have always been working in the defense sector.
Now, I think we've been talking quite chunky about preparation. What we haven't talked about is a specific organization of your own work for preparing for the process. Now, you went through for the sort of entry of this block.
Mhm.
But is there something else is there something specific, a way that you work specifically with EDF proposals in order of your folder system? Are you more, have you requirements from clients that it should be secured, what do you say, hard drives, or like, do you have that kind of you understand? Or when
Well,
you have shared folder, do you do that because of the nature of the area? Is it
yeah, this
what
depend is quite variable. Of course, the sector is more sensitive, so certain clients in particular prefer to work on their own platform,
yeah.
but we can also work on a regular Teams or other shared folder. Then at the submission phase, there is some tricks that we will see later on, or some specificity actually to follow.
Okay.
What I would say is, as a general remark, and it's not about the folder system or so on, but I always prefer to define an action plan for the entire duration of the service and the work, so that
Yeah.
everyone is informed about the different steps, especially because for certain type of proposals, the development action again, you need to obtain documents signed by the Ministry of Defense in support to the proposal. So we have to schedule this in order to know when to ask these documents, because as all public administration, they take their own legitimate time in order to fill in these forms. So the action plan is quite core for this.
This is this I actually put it down on paper. That's a question, because that's important in the preparation phase, the contact to the ministries. Explain why.
Well, certain goals that are called development action in particular, but also research action that include the design activity, needs to be submitted together with the support of minimum two Ministry of Defense. So, and this support is materialized in documents that are called Harmonized Capability Declaration, in which minimum two Ministry of Defense says, okay, we agree on the specification and the requirements that will drive this proposal. So this proposal is aligned with our interest. Without that document, the proposal itself is not eligible. So you have to take it as an applicant organization, especially for development action. You need to take contact with the Ministry of Defense from the very beginning and establish a relationship. All the contacts that are national focal point are public and available for everybody. So it's not a lobbying activity. There is an open page of the European Commission. So if you Google it, normally European Defence Fund, National Focal Point, you will have a list of entry points, contacts of people that are assigned and appointed to reply to question and initiate this kind of interaction. And if they judge that your proposal is aligned with their interest, they will follow up with you and support your proposal. Besides this, there is another document that is called co-financing declaration, in which the Ministry of Defense declared that they will co-finance those proposals that are not funded at 100%, again, the development action, as I was mentioning. And there is a third document that is especially for the more advanced proposals, the one that are more towards the market, that is called common procurement declaration. And again, here you have to obtain the support of minimum 2 Ministry of Defense in order to proceed on. All these documents and all these annexes are requested depending on the type of action that are included inside your proposal. So it's complex. It is complex.
So you can, like Margherita here, you, dear listener, you are allowed to take a deep breath.
Yes, thank you. But also, maybe again, another bit of self-advertisement. You really need someone to guide you through this process, because it's not immediate, and the expertise that we have been building over the years is really valuable in order to make this nightmare a little bit less of a nightmare.
I think for calls like this, I think it's very clear the added value.
Yes.
Because it's sometimes, as a grants consultant, you sometimes get the feeling that people are, why do we have to pay money for this? But here, there's an absolute clear point of attaching someone who knows exactly how this process is rolling.
Exactly. It's quite challenging, and deserve someone that takes the lead really and guide the consortium through the different phases and the different things to take care of.
On that note, let's move on to the next block. And the next block is, well, it's complementary to some of the things that we talked about here, but it's about shaping the proposal concept with the consortium. Now, I have built this structure of blocks based on the way that I was doing my proposals when I was a grants writer. Right? So I would have some preparatory work just discussed, and then I moved into a phase where I would there are key partners, core partners that I would sit together with in workshops here and there to develop things. So let us just dig a little bit into how you work with this. How you work with the group when you have you have the concept node, you have more or less the backbone of the consortium. Maybe you're not fully there yet, but you have something where you can start to work. So how do you move into this next step?
Well, there is a moment that we call a kickoff meeting. So it can be in presence or it can be in remote, but it's one meeting in which we say, okay, now we are passing on to the real proposal preparation phase. There is a moment in which it's good, in my experience, to explain to everybody what is the structure, what are the peculiarities that are expected inside the application form, to remind them about the deadlines also, because in my experience so far, I have mostly been working with technicians that might not be so familiar with the administrative part or other things that needs to be taken into account for this proposal. So I want everybody to be informed and aligned on what we are going to do and how we need to start and what we need to do during the period. Another thing that I would like to put at the beginning and to put up front is what kind of cost categories are eligible and which one are not. So after this work of awareness raising and education, let me say, we started to really work on the contents. Typically, I have some meetings which I sit together with the coordinator and the work package leaders in order to define the contents of the work package at least, and try to see if we are covering everything or that is requested by the topic, and if we are missing some expertise, and in case we continue to look for them. Another thing that, and these are the bilateral meetings with the work package leaders. Another thing to do in my experience is to set from the beginning weekly meetings in order to maintain the entire consortium updated and continuously engaged about what is going on. If they miss one meeting 1 week is not a problem, but they need to see the consistency of the work that is going on and on.
Is that only work package leaders you have there, the weekly meetings?
No, all the
Full
entire work
consortium?
package, all the consortium. And
Okay.
then we have specific meeting per each work package. And we traditionally send out some info collectors, so some templates that we have internally developed in order to extract information, for example, about technologies, about national priorities, things like that, that can be useful for the rest of the proposal. And another thing that typically is useful is to take the template and start to put bullet points per each block about what we want to do. In this case, the template is more similar to the one of a live proposal. So there are blocks that are fixed and you cannot remove the indication given by the commission.
Okay.
So, okay. So you can use these blocks and the indication given there in order to structure your thoughts and your ideas on what to put inside each block.
But that's horrible.
Aesthetically, you mean? Because we
No.
managed to put it nice aesthetically.
No. It's online.
Yes, when you start the process for application, you can download it as always, like in any Horizon Europe case, and you also have the template reported below the topic.
Okay, because that was what was horrible with live before they changed that, where you had online, and then when you had to copy paste your text from your Word document.
No. Here we are speaking of a Word document that you can download and work, and then you will have to submit it afterwards. So it's not a Word, an online format. Is a file in Word, but it's very structured. So you have to keep the boxes and keep the things, the description of the boxes as well. So.
Now, many of these things are that's what you would normally do also in other proposals as a proposal, right? You collect the information, you start up the process of having the work package working in group, but you also keep a string in them. Now, the difference, and probably many who are working with this would say the same thing as you say, that is probably there's a need for a high degree of continuous coordination because of such a strict context to make sure that it doesn't go off a track or path in parts of the proposal where you too late discover that, or it sounds like it's vital to have that kind of strong communication on the content.
Yeah, and coordination as well, in the sense that, as always, this is not the core business of anyone apart from the consultant that is doing this. So we have to continuously insist on, please, we need this input, we need that. We are trying to facilitate, we are trying to put everything together and even write things directly our own when it is of more general nature, but the competencies of the applicants are a core. And also it is important to have each one perspective and that each one is aware of what we are writing inside the proposal, because then hopefully it will be their problem to implement the project. So I can really write, this is a message that I'm always trying to share with my clients. I can write an optimal project, but then if it is not realistic to implement, it will be a big problem for you at the moment, for the client in the moment of the implementation. So our role is to collect, put together and structure in alignment with the expectation of the Commission. But the participation of everyone is really essential, not to overpromise, underpromise, and really present the capabilities of everybody.
See, this is also anyone who's writing proposals on a regular basis, being public or private. This is actually one of the things that I have had guests in where I have this the toughest challenge in the end, and many say that collecting information, partners that do not respond or respond so late that it's difficult to make the coherent structure of the text. That's the worst thing.
Yes, but it's also quite common because writing proposal is not the core business of the majority of the applicant. And this is why we exist as consultant in order to compensate for this. But of course, it's important to have this kind of inputs and a continuous collaboration. 2 points that maybe I would like to mention that are a little bit different from other proposals. Here, as I was mentioning before, structuring the budget from the beginning is essential. So at the very beginning, right after the definition of the concept note, I would start to work with the coordinator only in order to define a first hypothesis of the budget, especially in order to maximize the bonus and the funding rate. And this is one of the rule of this program that is very peculiar. So here you can refer to the previous episodes in order to see what I was discussing about that.
Indeed. So it's and I do have chapters there, so you can go in when I have time codes. So when you go back in Spotify or Apple Podcast, you will find the time codes where you can see and find the topic that we're talking about relative to the introduction to the program.
And the second point that I was about to mention, that is a bit peculiar of this program and probably for the nature of the sector itself, I would recommend in general, if possible, to schedule at least 1 or 2 in-presence meeting with the entire consortium, because the nature and the sensitivity of the sector makes it really useful to have these kind of meetings in order both to build more trust among the partners and also to try to leverage and to extract a bit more of information that maybe are not written or are not shared in other moments.
Yeah, COVID did a lot to remove those meetings because it sort of continued afterwards that you didn't have to meet in person. But of course, they were always good. They were always good, but what it often did, I remember I was relieved when I was writing proposals in the period, because then I was taken off that logistical nightmare that is sometimes is to arrange it as a coordinator. And then you become a travel guide. Yeah, you become a travel office at the same time as you're supposed to coordinate a high-level research and development proposal. My plane has changed. Can you show me? Oh, I'm I'm a vegan, so
No, I can see the problem, but
but you're absolutely right, and I would say we're not going to. It's not like this area is more important than other areas, but it's a matter of the nature of secrecy that there is naturally within this area, that if you put people together in the same room, trust is always important in a consortium. But here it's a matter of organizations that normally are very, very, like they don't share. They do not. Because it's so much money. It's the technologies that they're dealing with. It takes such a heavy amount of capital to develop these things, and they really keep secret about it.
Well, apart from this, I think that there is also a traditional aspect. That this sector is traditionally something that organizations have been working on at a national basis. So we are already through this program pushing people to collaborate across borders, and in a sector that traditionally has not been working across borders, been working for national interests. So having these kind of meetings can help really to crush this boundary that has always been there so far.
What we're saying here is that we are attacking your comfort zone from different angles.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Nah. Yeah. Do you How do you work in Zabala with this? Do you have a team, or is it only you? Or do you attach more people to in a complex, because it's complex, yeah?
Yes. Well, here in Zabala, we have been working on proposals since more than 35 years, and the expertise that have been built inside the company makes it possible that a consultant that is not specialized in defense can easily get to work on a European defense proposal, because everyone is very used to work on different kind of templates and different kind of format, but still with the mindset of creating a successful proposal very aligned with the expectation of the European Commission. So what happens here is that there is a internal training that I give to most of the people working on this kind of projects. And then depending on the needs, so that the people that actually are assigned a proposal, I do a further in-depth training, and we construct the capability for writing that kind of application.
Okay.
In general, everyone is very specialized on technology. They are very well versatile on different kind of formats. So it's a kind of major asset that this company has. And then it's just a matter of tuning them to the specificity of this program. So no, I don't work alone. There are a lot of people, and we also set internally an internal review process. So we give mutual feedbacks by someone that has not been writing the proposal itself. So this helps a lot.
Yeah, it's the same in all big consultancy houses. Yeah, I would write these big ones. I did a handful of Green Deal proposals back at the end of Horizon 2020, and I was doing them in a tandem.
Mhm.
So we were two people on it, one content person, and I was making sure, like building the consortium and making sure everything around budget stuff like this, but also involved in concept development and so together, So that was and that's probably the same with you. It's also individual how you work as a consultant. Some prefer to do the content alone, and then and normally when you move towards the submission date, you would have. You have that also in Zabala with legal people that can make sure that, or or somebody who's very knowledgeable about the budget templates to make sure that that's the budgets for all partners, so on and so forth. So yeah, the advantage.
But
Yeah.
for sure, it's not one person job, and we tend to work in small teams and leveraging on everyone's expertise about the different technologies. So maybe someone that has been working before in a health-related project can be more adequate to write a proposal on application of health in the defense sector. Luckily, we have a very heterogeneous set of expertise inside the company that we can leverage. Again, in the same principle that I was mentioning before, if you have knowledge from the civil sector, that knowledge will help you to address the needs of these other applications.
Thanks. Let's move into the actual writing process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different from funding scheme to funding scheme, how long this takes. It can be long. We're just going to take it step by step. And here we'll be fading out of the first half of this double episode on the EDF proposal writing. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You will find the link in the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Margherita's personal LinkedIn site and a link to Zabala Innovation Europe. Further, there will be links to the EDF thematic site on the Grant website, and finally you will find a link to the European Commission's official site for the EDF. Next week is the second half of this double episode where we zoom in on the actual writing phase. See you next week.